What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers podcast with Daily Refinement. Today is the high level call on Friday. It's also going to be recorded for our podcast today. And I have a topic there's these three major things that every single reseller needs to do. And I want to go over them in this episode. So there's three metrics that I want to track every single week for the people in this group. And on Thursdays, we do our numbers call where we figure out how much profit we made. But the three things that I want to track for everyone each week is how many hours did you work? How many things did you sell? And how much profit did you make? Those are the three things I want to track. How many hours were you working? How many things were sold? And how much profit did you make? This is going to allow you to figure out what you need to work on next. So if this week you worked 20 hours and you sold 100 things for $1,000 profit, then now you know your average profit per item is $10 and you're making about, let's see, if you work 20 hours and made $1,000 a week, that's $50 an hour. And that would be you processing, finding, shipping everything, 5 items per hour in the 20 hours that you are working. With these three numbers, you can build a resale business to any size. So Russell earlier in the week was talking about working on next week's listings this week. So he has a draft bank of 6 and working on making a bigger draft bank. So eventually, Russell is going to hit that 2-week or 3-week goal that he has for the draft bank. And it's going to become somewhat easy to him. And he's going to be able to raise his listing goal a little bit to whatever feels more comfortable. And if you're not able to build the draft bank, you're probably listing at your capacity. So if you're listing 10 a day and you can't list more than 10 a day, maybe drop back down to 8 a day until you have a draft bank of 2 weeks at 8 a day, then go back up to 9, then go back up to 10. This is how they do progressive overload in every single industry. If you are not reaching your goal, they'll have you take a step back, work on it. So you have a little extra in the tank, do that for a couple of weeks and then go up. I think people are making changes that are too aggressive for where they're at. And it sometimes slows you down because you get burned out. Like you raise your goal from 10 to 15, you do 15 for a week and then you burn out. Maybe you don't even go back to 10, you drop back to 5 or 4. So it's all about consistency. How many hours did you work? How many things did you sell? How much profit did you make? So first thing resellers need is to develop this baseline. So we're going to start testing this with Carrie on Fridays. So for the first hour of the beginner call, I'm going to have you guys work for 1 hour to establish a baseline. You need these baselines to determine how long it's going to take you to reach your goal. So if you're trying to make $500 a week and you're making $12 an hour or $12.50 an hour, you may have to work a little bit longer than people who are making $25 an hour just because of capacity. And this is where I kind of wanted to ask everybody in the chat. Do you think you can teach somebody to work at a faster pace? The reason why I ask this is I have some workers that do a great job, but they're just slow. They're slower than everybody else on the team. And I'm completely okay with that because they do a great job. Now, there's people who work at a fast pace and make mistakes. And those people, I have a much harder time training because they really want to get that pace up, but they're making a lot of mistakes. And we have to go back and redo a lot of things when people are working at a fast pace. I want to do slow pace for me. I guess that's my question. Can you teach somebody who's moving too slowly to move faster, but they're doing a good job? Or can you teach somebody who's always in a hurry to slow down and do a good job? I think it's easier to teach someone to go faster, in my opinion, than to train somebody who is going way too fast and they got to slow down and fix everything. I feel like that is much harder to fix. So this week we had covered a lot of awesome topics, and one being urgency. So like a lot of people are just seem to be like it doesn't matter if they get their work done or not. There's nothing to do after their work. There's no sense of urgency. And I think that the system design is the most important thing, because when I look at busy people's schedule, like Judith went over her schedule this week and it seems already very full. The problem is not that she's not performing at a high level. The problem is there's too many things to do in this period of time. And that can lead to people being burnt out. So that's why the first part of establishing a baseline is so important. So you can be realistic with your goals. So let's say you have family obligations, household obligations, and you have your reselling business. These are these three things that you're handling. If you work for a week and figure out that you're reselling about 18 hours a week and you're producing this many items, with that information, you can take a step back. And let's say Judith's working 18 hours a week and producing X amount of listings. What she would need to do to get to the next level is stay consistent at that 18 hours a week for a few weeks, then take like an hour or 2 hours and look at the last 3 weeks and see what she could do to actually improve that a little bit. There's no way to, a lot of people just do the 18 hours a week for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they never step back and look at what could be improved. So on Fridays, when Carrie is doing the call, I want everyone to do a baseline of either photography, listing, product research. Maybe you're outsourcing, you want to figure out how many items you can find. Once you have a baseline, you can do what Carrie's doing because Carrie's already been doing what she's been doing a long time. What she should spend the hour doing is figuring out how to improve the hours she's working each week. And I'm always a fan of trading up. So a lot of people in the group are talking about when can I afford help or when can I start living on my paycheck. They're thinking about things that can happen in the future. The way that you do that is you trade up. So for example, let's say Judith has 5 hours a week to go sourcing, right? Then instead of the 5 hours she's sourcing, she spends the 5 hours a week listing. Somebody else does the sourcing for her. She would earn more money for sure because you can make more money listing for 5 hours than you can sourcing for 5 hours. That's a higher productivity thing to do for her time. And let's say that she trades lists, she hands off listing and shipping to somebody else, and then she just makes contacts with people that bring her better and better goods, right? That would be a higher use of her time. The most valuable thing you can do in reselling is developing a supplier. That's the highest form. The problem is that a lot of that work yields no results. It's like 90% of the time you're looking for a supplier, you're not getting any supplier. It's just that finally you have gone on the route so many times that they know you or trust you. If you think about sourcing, what it means is going to where that item came from or where does it go at the end of its life cycle. So I want you guys to think about whatever it is that you're selling, who has all of it? Where is it? For me, I'm selling company overstock, company returns. Where is it? It's sitting in a warehouse somewhere. There's two different kinds of warehouses, really. There's one that's called a 3PL, which is actually, I guess there's three different kind of warehouses that I know of. 3PL is a third-party company that fulfills the order for you, kind of like Amazon. If you're an Amazon seller, you give your things to Amazon warehouse, they fulfill it for you. When the item gets returned on Amazon, you can have it go back to Amazon, or you can have it come back to you. There's a big Amazon seller in the warehouse that I'm at, and he gets around 200 returns per day. So he is the actual return center. It's pretty wild. 200 different items of different sizes and shapes. He sells a whole bunch of different items. Show up at the warehouse every day. 200 returns go back to him. So that's like you doing your own return fulfillment. There are also companies that only handle returns. If you guys buy something from Nike, you return to some distribution center that handles all of the returns. It doesn't go back to the original warehouse. So if you are selling returns, you need to figure out who is handling the return address on that box. If you're selling Nike returns, you need to figure out where do those Nike returns go? How can you reverse engineer your way into getting there? If you sell thrifted goods, by definition, you would need to have a really good understanding of the thrift stores in your area. Right? I hear people say that they're really good at garage sales, and I think that's a really tough gig because garage sales don't happen that often. There's not a lot of repeat garage sales. There are some, but most of the time, a garage sale is not a business relationship. It's a one-time consumer relationship, which is okay. But like your aunt dropping off a whole bunch of stuff or all your friends and family dropping off all their junk at your house, that's not a business relationship. And I wonder how many people here, I guess there is There's 38 people listening right now. How many of you the problem is processing, and how many people the problem is the product? Like, can you get enough product, but you can't process it fast enough? Or can you not get enough product and you can process it fast enough? It doesn't really matter where you're at, because essentially what you need to do is figure out how many hours you're working, how many things you sold this week, how much profit did you make. Then you can work on the appropriate part on Fridays. The baseline is really important. So I'm in the process right now of making a visual scoreboard for all of my people. And this is what I'm going to track. How many hours did you work? How many items did you prep? How many items did you sell? How much profit did you make? That's it. I have workers that work a little bit slower, but make a lot more profit. And I have workers that work really fast and they make less money per item, but they sell more items. So it's really weird right now because I have 12 different streamers and they are all different. Their personalities are all different. So I have to manage it. For the people who move at a slower pace, but really have attention to detail, they actually make more money than the people who are fast on the volume model. Even though their process is really good, they tend to not get all the money out of every item, if that makes sense. But somebody who's really careful and describes a bunch of items, Matt was talking about getting some one-off statues that were worth quite a bit of money. That would not be the right product to do the quick and dirty bulk pricing, 25% over what I paid for it. Let's get it out. That's the wrong product for that. But if you're buying a Tommy Hilfiger shirt, there's no reason to sit on that. There's so many of those. And for me, a Tommy Hilfiger shirt, honestly, I'm pricing it half the market. I'm not going to sit on that. Why would you sit on an item that there's 23,000 of them on eBay? But you have a Marvel statue that there's 23 on the entire website. Maybe that one is a different model. So everyone listening right now, you guys have all these different models in your business, and you got to think about. I like looking at it like an index fund, right? If you're an everything seller, which is what I'm actually going to recommend for people who are like, if you're under 200 items a week, you can be an everything seller. It doesn't. Your processes don't need to be super duper dialed in for under 200 a week. You can have a little fun with it. You could do one bike a week, 4 action figures, 12 jackets. You could do it that way if you want to do under 200 a week, because it's just it's more about getting the most out of every item. Under 200 items a week, which is most people listening right now, it's about getting the most out of each item. Really care about your items. Actually look forward to shipping them because there's something really cool about it. So, okay, you have your baseline, you got to do it consistently for a few weeks. Then you got to think about what to do next. Then you have to execute the change and start the process over again. So now you have your process. I sold 20 items last week. How do I get to 21 items a week? What do I need to change? You do not have more time. There's like, I guess you could work 24 hours a day. Like, I'll give you guys an example. I had a Super Bowl show where I gave away Super Bowl tickets. They were $18,000. My worker messed up and gave away the tickets too early. So it caused me to have to buy a second set of tickets, which I ended up having to only pay $11,000 for. So I still lost $11,000 from this person's mistake. So the person said, let me work a 24-hour stream for you because I'm curious what that looks like. So I was like, okay, can somebody really even work 24 hours? First, that's like, I'm in California. That's not a legal thing. So like it was pretty complicated figuring out how to pay this person, because that does exist in California. People who are firefighters or some jobs actually are a 24-hour shift. So they started at 12:01 midnight. They worked. I was like not comfortable with them working the entire shift. So I had them sleep in the middle of the day, come back later, but they were still on the clock for 24 straight hours. And they produced, I think around, let's see here, 17 times 40, around 800 items. They sold around 800 items in one day. Of course, this is auction format, a bit different, but still, I was thinking that was like they dedicated one entire day to, and it's a couple, so both of them dedicated this entire 24-hour period to just selling as many items as possible. Sometimes I think it's important for everybody here to try that. Like, what are you capable of? Let's say Judith was able to work an entire 24 hours, um, just focused on her business. Like, I came over and I was babysitter, and house manager for 24 hours. She got to work on her business the entire day with no distractions. And we ordered DoorDash. She didn't have to think about food. Like, what could you get done in one day? Seth says that he worked 29 hours in a row in the oil field. There are definitely some occupations where you just keep going because it's just like hard to get it going, or you're in a flow. And of course, it's dangerous. There's probably hazard pay. Um, but what are you capable of is interesting, because how many hours did you work is one baseline. The other one is how many hours could you work? And I think that's important because how many hours do you have to spend with your family? How many hours do you need to spend cooking and cleaning, getting dressed, hygiene? All of that stuff adds in. And I think you trade up. So let's say that you spend 5 hours a week. I had this reselling couple that told me that once they hit $800 a week, they want to get a house cleaner. Then when they hit $1,200 a week profit, they want to get a gardener. At 1,600. So what they did is they traded up. They used to be the house cleaner. They traded that job for more listing. They wanted to do no gardener. So they traded that for more listing. They just did what they wanted to do, which was grow their resale business. And they focused on 100% outerwear. This is actually a pretty good model if you have a lot of space for storage, but they only sold sweaters or heavier, right? Which is like, you need a pretty big photo station to do that properly. In my opinion, you either need like, you need like a 6x6 or an 8x8 space to properly photograph jackets and trench coats and what they were selling in a lot of space. But I like that concept of they're going to have a higher ASP, but they just need more storage. So for every kind of situation out there, there are different things that you need to get it all done. I thought, because my process is, I thought super modular, I could just plug any person into my system and it would work, but it's just not true. People are so different. You have to figure out what people's needs are, how they operate, what their motivations are, what their incentives are. And people are very different. Some people want to get done with work as soon as possible and go do their thing. Some people want to make as much money as possible, and that's their priority. Some people, they love their customers. One of my workers asked me if I could throw a party for my customers. I've never even heard that. She's like, you talk to resellers all day. What about the buyers? Why don't you have a party for them? They spend way more money than your reseller group. Why don't you have a big party and pay for it for all the people who buy stuff from you? That's way better than resellers because they're not buying your product. Maybe some, but the majority is just random people. And I thought, wow, how many people here spend time talking to your customer after you sold them something on eBay? Of course you do, because someone will say, hey, I cannot believe you found this. Do you have any more of these? Or this is awesome. I've been looking for this for such a long time, and you finally have it. Becky is saying they do it a lot in real estate. I just think that incentives are the most important thing. Why do you do something? My wife and I have been scheduling out all these dates. I've been trying to do one awesome date with her a month that we get a babysitter, because last year we only did that one time. And I thought, how can that be a priority for me? And we only did it one time. We hang out all the time. On the weekends, we hang out the entire time, but it's with the kids. We only did one night in an entire year together, just her and I. So this year we want to do it at least once a month. And it takes work to do that. Like, it's not like we get any less, we get the same number of hours. We just have to figure out how to fit it in. And I think this is the great equalizer. Everybody here has 60 minutes in an hour. Everyone, everyone has 60 minutes in an hour. What do you do with it? Nadine says they do it all the time at casinos. That makes a lot of sense. Why not, if you're a casino, fly in all the whales to have a big party? Chinese New Year's coming up. So I wrote down, I want to be the best reseller I can, and I want to be the best reseller teacher that I can. And I thought, you know what? What that is helping people develop self-awareness. That's it. That is how I could be the best instructor ever. If Seth could look at his day and be like, wow, I sell this many things each week and I know why. And if I wanted to sell more, I could either work 2 hours a day more, or I could sell different kinds of things. And I know how to do that. If I wanted to sell different kinds of things, I would just go over here and get them. For me, I know if I wanted to be a bike seller, I could do it from the flea market. There are enough bikes at the flea market that if you learned how to do it, right, about all the parts, all the things, all the what components of a bicycle, you could be a bike seller. I know if I wanted to be a used clothing seller, I would focus on thrift stores. 100%. If I was focused on selling clothes, used clothes, I would go, my model would be 100% thrift store, or what happens at the items with the thrift store when they go away. Because people donate billions of dollars of clothing. If I was selling new clothing, I would not go to Goodwill because that's not where it is. If I was selling vintage electronics, there are Goodwills in Texas that only sell electronics. I think it's called like Goodwill Computer Works or something. They have thrift stores that only sell one thing. And you guys know that most Goodwills, does anybody have this? This is where they do it here. When you donate something, it goes to the Goodwill plant where it gets sorted. Do you guys have that? Here, the items go to a Goodwill, but they don't get sorted there. They go on a truck somewhere else to be sorted, and then they drop back off in those big blue bins, the rolling ones, while it gets sold at that store. Because every single store is different. They don't sell FUBU in the suburbs here. It doesn't work. They move it to a different location. Right? So you guys need to do that. Every single area is different, and you need to think about where your items come from, and you need to be that person's best customer. I wrote that down. I want to be 5 suppliers' best customer this year. When you get something good, call me first. I don't want to be 5th on the list. That means that 4 people passed before me. I want to pass first. So how do you do that? I was looking at like, how much money do I need to be top customer? And I was like, I can only do that like at the flea market. I'm like the lowest person on the totem pole. How do I get to the higher part of the totem pole? There's some thing you can do to be the first person they call. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because remember the conversation we had at lunch when I was at your spot? So, just a quick recap. I didn't list the 5 days I was in San Francisco. I took
Yep.
like a break for a couple reasons. Um, and then I like came back with like full force, like rededicated myself to it, read the book, read Slight Edge, talked to you. And then I was like, I was saying to Chris, the conversation I had him at lunch was there's like somebody that I don't reach out to. Like I wait for them to come to me because it helps with my negotiating. But one of the first things I did when I got back that week was I called them and I was like, next time you have a deal, hit me up. And I completely like 180'd my strategy because I realized like sort of what you're talking about right now. Like I don't want to be like the 5th person they call and they call me because 4 others. I was like, we've done some good deals. Like I want to keep this moving. And part of the reason why I was saying, telling Chris that I didn't want to do it was because I felt like if they came to me, it was like a better negotiation term. Like I could say to them, "Oh, you must need me. Like you ran through, a bunch of other people, and now if you get to me, then I know you're like needing to get rid of this stuff." But I figured it was better to be at the top of their list and pay up a little more for the better stuff than to like have this like slight negotiation edge on some stuff that like some other people passed on. So just a follow up to our conversation and bring the rest of the group into it. But that was what one of the things I came back from San Francisco and decided to like switch up.
If you can get into Matt's position where you're the buyer and not the seller, like when you're the seller, you have to like convince people to do something. But when you're the buyer, you get to dictate more terms. So when on eBay, now that I think of it like it's a buyer's market, if you price your item too high, the customer is not forced to buy it, right? So you get to dictate your own. When you get to dictate your own terms when you're sourcing, that might be when you've made it as a reseller. Like they can say, "We're trying to sell you this collection for $8,000," and you can say, "No, it's for me. It's only 5,000. I know you want 8, but like if you want my money right now, it has to be at 5." If you can dictate those terms, then you are in the driver's seat. You're in a much different position than a reseller that is in a selling position where you're just trying to like get goods that are really good for cheap and there's no benefit to working with you. Like there's got to be more benefit to working with you. And usually the benefit is space. People are like, okay, finally, I can get my space back. You can have this stuff. You just need to be in a different position. KF in the chat is saying thrift store prices are out of control. I agree with that. And that's why there are more and more and more Goodwill bins finds. It's astonishing. I heard something like 94% of items don't sell at Goodwill and they go back to the Goodwill bins. Are you serious? That's crazy. That means somebody drops off 10 boxes of stuff, only a handful of things sell. Somebody fills up their SUV, they go to Savers and drop it off. Only a handful of stuff sells. Everything else goes to the pay by the pound. But that's how high they price it. Coldwater Creek sweater, $17.99. They do that because somebody put that on a list. Coldwater Creek is killing it. So they're like, okay, that's killing it there. Some lady's gonna pay $17.99 at the store, and they do. Kelly's shouting out American Thrift in Florida. They do. That is a great store, and the bigger the store, the closer it is to the market value. Have you guys noticed this? The bigger the store, the better the deals. Almost always. Because it starts to level out, because if you have one amazing item, the price is high. You have 1,000 amazing items, price is going to dip. So it's too much awesome. For like, I was thinking about this, like you're a sports fan, you go to the stadium, they have the gift shop. Everything is absurdly expensive. It's like a, a hat, $45, a jersey, $290. Like it's insane, right? So when you customer gets there, maybe they want everything, but they're not buying everything. They may be buying one thing, maybe two things. I've I don't know. I've never really seen like a baller go to that store at the stadium and just drop like bring 40 buy 40 items. And this doesn't work like that. And then that stuff gets clearanced and it ends up somewhere at some Goodwill for $10, but it's sold for 290 at the store. Everyone here has come upon some kind of collection that was donated at a thrift store. Maybe it might have been Little League and not NFL or NBA, but someone has donated the entire team of stuff or overstock. Jamie says he saw a George shirt at Goodwill for $12.99. They don't know. Maybe they thought it was Giorgio Armani. You have no, they don't know. Does the worker really know? I'm telling you, the workers don't know. They try. But like we're talking about someone who might be an ex-convict, because Goodwill's thing is they provide jobs for people who can't get jobs, right? That's their whole spiel. So are they really going to do they really care the difference between Giorgio Armani and George? They have no idea. Which George is it? They don't know. Maybe it's his American line and it's worth a lot. They have no idea. when I'm looking at all these things at the store, it's our job to figure out what's valuable. I love discovering a brand that nobody knows about and make like that's like I think there's nothing more satisfying to me than finding a brand that nobody cares about and everybody passes on and you make a lot of money on it. That's happened to me so many times. And it's like literally the best thing ever. Because here's the thing, when you first start, you're not the very first person suppliers call. You get the leftovers, right? The thing is, sometimes the leftovers are good. You just got to try. You just got to try. When I was offered Clove sneakers, which are a niche shoe for nurses, nobody wanted them, right? And that deal made me like $200,000. And that was like, I was like the 18th person they called. Nobody wanted those. But I'm like, I think this is right because I think this product is right. It's bright, it's waterproof, and there is it had like maybe 300 or 400 different SKUs on one. So there was a good variety of it. So I ended up pulling the trigger on them. And I know that I have the capacity to process all the problems because I have sold used shoes before on eBay. Used shoes on eBay is a grind. You've got to clean the shoes, prep the shoes, process the shoes. There's a lot of, I never use the toothbrush, but some people use a toothbrush and get in there. Um, and I was just thinking, man, I have the skills to do this. I can add value to it. I know how to take every single one out of the box, look it over, but nobody wanted that. That's like these are the deals that come through once in a while that you find, and it's huge. You know, 'cause there's I will tell you guys, I think that this last Q4 might have been the worst retail Q4 in a long time. I think that Goodwill is going to get more donations than ever this quarter. People did not do good last quarter. I did not hear a lot of resellers saying that they killed it. I actually heard more resellers liquidating, quitting, selling all their stock. I have one in my email right now. This guy has 8,600 items. He'll take $600 for it. And I have to pass. There's too much stuff. And it's all like, he's like, I spent $60,000 over the last few years accumulating this, and this is what's left. I don't want that. Right. And now he'll take $600 because he doesn't want to pay the storage fee on it anymore. It's tough. It's probably okay, but my guess is that he has a small habit. So, okay, you know how we said, I want to know how much profit you made this week? My guess is he probably made around break even. This would be my guess. A lot of resellers get into this trap. He seems like a pretty good reseller. He probably makes $500 to $1,000 a week, but he probably overspends on inventory $500 to $1,000 a week. And he looks like he lives off his girl. Just from 10,000 foot level, looks like he's living off his partner because you can I just feel if you look at the pattern, right? If you have that much unlisted inventory, that's where your money went. I think that's where his money went. Because I don't know, guys. I've seen some wild stuff over the last few years. People who go thrifting every single day and buy 3 to 5 items over the course of a year, it's intense how much stuff that you accumulate. One of my workers is like, Chris, how do you decide what to buy at work? Because for me, I'm selling clothing to my staff for like $2 to $10, and I'm like, okay, first off, if you spend $100 a month here at working for me, in 3 months, you will not be able to even close your closet. There's just too much stuff. Everything is cool. You can't do that. Everything that's not awesome, you sell back on the stream. Your house is going to be full. If you try to buy everything cool working here, you're going to be destroyed. Your life will be ruined. You need to. So that's why working for me, I don't charge people for selling their own stuff on my stream if it's for personal. For profit, I charge them. But if they're just selling their own junk, let's just get it out. That way you can have more mobility at home. Clear out your closet. But these small habits, like the habit of buying a little extra each week, that's the worst reselling habit. I think you should be, there's all these people in the chat that say they can't find enough stuff. I would rather be you than the person that buys five too many items each week. Five too many items each week is so easy, and that's 1,500 items a year. That's one extra item each time you go sourcing. You have a 1,500 item death pile after 1 year of reselling. There was a gentleman in the group that had his entire house full, two storage units full, 2,000 square foot storage is full, and maybe like a 6 a day listing habit. Like Mr. Buys a lot. You guys know Brian? I consider Brian a friend, so I can make fun of him. Mr. Buys a lot offered me 6 million items for $1 million. Okay. He has like this gigantic warehouse, 6,000 square feet, floor to ceiling stuff, right? And I was like, okay, so question, Brian, let's say we do this deal, okay? We're not doing this deal because I did the math. It was like it would take me 500 years to sell it. It's not possible to even sell it. So I was like, okay, Brian, let's say I do this deal, right? And I give you $1 million. What do you do? And he's like, I go straight back into buying. And I was like, dude, this is like the crate. Somebody actually bought you out, you would go right back to buying. This guy is just Mr. Buys a lot. Mr. Buys a lot he's out there. He's looking. If you guys have a deal, call him. Mr. Buys a lot, buys everything. Literally everything.
Chris, just to back you up about everything being cool in your shop.
Yeah.
There's like one part when I was visiting Chris and he like had to train someone. So he was like, Matt, you like t-shirts? Come here. Come look at this part. Take whatever you want. And he just had like pallets of like dead stock vintage shirts in my size. Like I think I grabbed like 5 shirts, like one for my girl and like 4 for me. But I literally could have walked out of there with like the shirts were also good. I was like, I could have taken one of each and been like, every single one of these is cool. I could have, I like the shirts were so cool. There were like 50 shirts I wanted. When he was just like, here's a pile of them, like take what you want. I was like, I got to pick the best ones here because I can't carry all this around in my book bag. But it was like unbelievable. He was just like, oh yeah, they're just go check that area out. And it's just boxes and pallets of like cool stuff. I was bugging out.
Dude, it's been like because here's the thing. I want all of it. I think that's why I've become the person that people call when they want to get rid of inventory, because I'll buy all of it. I want all of it, and you can't cherry pick the stuff out of it. So when I bought all those t-shirts, I'm like, I need all of the t-shirts. You can't have like John had like 60 1994 Primus t-shirts that were so dope. They were so cool, right? And he had so many of them. And that was the only shirt I let him keep because he just loved it. So I'm like, you can have that one, but I want every other one. Like, because in Japan, that shirt's just like $300 all day. So just you can have those shirts, but I want everything else. And I'll take these motorcycle shirts that suck and I'll sell them for $2 to try to get some money back. But that's part of it. You just gotta like, or I'll like or maybe it's used as a freebie or an add-on or something to get people excited. But if you can get all like selling cool stuff is a really good job. Selling average or mediocre or below average stuff is a hard job. I don't know if you guys have ever had a sales job where what you're selling is not good. It's really, really, really hard. My first job was selling Strivectin wrinkle cream. Even though it's $150 an ounce, women wanted it. I would be like, did those stretch marks on your stomach bother you? And they'd be like, yes. How did you know? I'm like, I actually didn't know that. You filled out a survey at Bloomingdale's saying that those stretch marks bother you, and you put your phone number down. And that's why I'm calling you. I didn't know that. You told us that you wanted that, and we're selling it to you. It's a lot easier when the people already want it. Imagine I had to sell wrinkle cream to people who didn't want it. Can you imagine that? How many people here want to pay $150 for 1 ounce of cream? That is really, really, really hard. Vincent? Good morning.
Hey, Chris, when you had mentioned the shirt selling in Japan
Yep.
for 300, I'm like, how do you know what the shirt sells for in Japan? And then I remembered a tip that I had wanted to share that I think I just found out like 2 days ago on TRP. Like when you have rare items and you're not finding any comps for it, you can do the 3-year thing on eBay.com. And I never noticed that it was restricting your search only to eBay.com. And
Yep.
they have all these other eBay websites like eBay UK, and it's probably like 10, 15, or 20 of them. I don't know. But if you put
Yep.
like all sites, you can go from like 0 results in 3 years to maybe like 5 or 10.
That's right.
So that's what I wanted to share. Yeah.
That's a really good tip because
Thanks.
and I learned this too, Vincent, like just by accident, because when I was trying to buy these shirts from John, he's like, you have to do a $2,000 buy to come. If you want to come to my warehouse and I'll show you around, you have to spend at least $2,000. So I was like, I don't know where I learned this, but I was like, can you tell me what kind of people buy from you? Like, who is doing that? And he said, oh, a lot of people from Japan take a trip out here and go through there and look for shirts. And I was like, really? So it would make sense if you're a vintage t-shirt seller to include eBay Japan. And then when I went, I was like, I'm definitely buying all of these shirts. Dude, how did you even buy out a store? Winterland is a really popular tag. That store went out of business in San Francisco, and John made an offer and bought all of them. And so I don't know what price he paid, but he bought like 110,000 shirts from this company, and then over the years was selling them on eBay slowly. Um, then reached out to me and said, "Do you want to come do a $2,000 buy?" And I said, "Okay." And I went there, and then the first buy I did was consignment because actually, I mean, I know you. I don't know if you guys have followed this story, but I didn't know anything about men's shirts. I'm a women's clothing seller, right? So I went there and I said, "John, this stuff seems really cool, but I really have no idea. So like, can you give me an idea?" So John has this binder, which he's actually shared in the group of all the different tags that he's made over the years. So he has gone through and learned all the different tags, styles, prints, and John knows a lot, all the way back to like 70s shirts. Matt, I wish we would have hung out with John so you could meet him because he's really cool. The He gave me this like rundown of what's vintage, what's not vintage. This is modern, but still valuable. This is vintage, but not valuable. This is what dry rot looks like. So I went through this whole thing, and then I'm like, okay, because it's hard to like actually absorb that information because it's a lot of stuff all at one time. And this is why I think bulk buying teaches people so much stuff. But I'm like, okay, I don't have, this is not for me because I cannot buy this. I do not know what it's worth. But you're saying $2,000 minimum buy. So why don't we do this? Can I do a consignment show? I'll do a consignment deal with you, and I'll sell as much as I can. It'll probably be more than $2,000, but I don't know enough about this product. I gotta try. I'll try my best with you. So the first show that I did, John was sitting right next to me, explaining to me all the products as I was trying to sell it, and I learned about it. And I would consider myself like 8 out of 10 vintage knowledge. I know a lot now. After selling 60,000 t-shirts, I have a pretty good idea. Now, my range of knowledge is also pretty narrow. So I think it probably was one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had because it was one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had because I learned so much and I still know so little. Want to say hi? Say hi. Okay. Oh no, he's crying. Why?
Good morning, Henry.
I think he's hungry. But yeah, it was really humbling because I learned so much about shirts, but there's still so much to learn. But I think that you've got to be creative because when he wanted me to buy $2,000 worth of shirts, I just didn't know anything about the product. It was too complicated. Like this Hanes tag worth money, this Hanes tag not worth money. Like, what? And then this one, like this tag, is, and also when you look online at tags, those tags are used. The ones in the pictures that when people are making guides, this was dead stock vintage, which is totally different. And like it looks new, but it's old. So like when you're looking at all these different inventory things, it's so random. Right now, I'm selling tipsy elves. If you guys look at my stream, selling, it's the most random stuff ever. They started with ugly Christmas sweaters. I did some research on them. They went from ugly Christmas sweaters to onesies to pajamas to snowsuits to just the most random things. And actually, on eBay, it sells quite well. Tipsy Elves is pretty good. But it's another brand that somebody passed on, and I said okay to because 90s is in, and every single item that company produces is 90s colors and fluorescent and fun, and that's what's in right now. People are into experiences, so it's almost like if you buy an item and it's not related to an experience, I think you might be in trouble. But if you're buying vintage boom boxes, probably going to be fine. How many people wanted one back in the day or had one? KF is saying we should do weekly goals and check in once a week on if goals are met. So KF, this is important. There's two things I wanted to do with that. Yes, I want goals, but more important is actuals, because everybody has goals. Everybody here wants more money than they need so they can get some savings. Everybody wants more time. Everybody wants a healthy store, good sell-through rate. Everybody wants that. But what we need to know is where you're actually at. So Kevin, on, I don't know if that's Kevin, but KF, on Thursdays, I want to do that check-in and say how you're doing this week. And then on Fridays, so right after this call in 10 minutes, I want to Carrie to do this baseline call that's an hour of you just working, and then report back the second hour and let us know how you did. Right now, this is my second year of having a personal trainer. And if I think about it year over year, I am so much stronger than last year. But if I think about it from last week, no change. 2 weeks ago, nothing different. But it's like, a year ago, guys, it's like so crazy. You guys have known me since, some of you have known me since 2017. I don't know where I was at in 2017, but exactly, but compared myself to then, it's like there's been a lot of iterations since then, a lot different. Jamie's asking about the benefits that I noticed from the last silent hour. Okay, so when we did the last hour, this is really important. I actually noticed every single distraction that happened during the hour. And I think that was probably the biggest wake-up call for people, how many times they get interrupted in an hour, whether it be your phone or your dog or your kids, or maybe you want to check something. And I think that being intentional about what you want to watch is big. This is probably one of the biggest hacks. I don't watch YouTube randomly. I only watch YouTube when I want to know something, or I specifically want to be entertained in a certain way. If I want to watch gym pranks, I type in gym pranks and I watch some buff dude pretend to be an old man in the gym and lift heavy things and scare people. If I want to watch that, that's what I type in. I won't just go and watch what's recommended. So when this is the part, maybe this will be enlightening for some people. When eBay has a recommended promoted listings rate, you know what I say? Why? Why are you recommending this? Is it because you guys want to make a lot of extra money doing no extra work? Or is it really, why are you recommending 10%? Is this a saturated market? That seems like a lot. That's a lot of money. Like if you went to a consignment shop and they're like, we're going to give you 60% of what it sells. So if you drop off an item for $20, we're going to give you 12, right? And then they said, you know what, Carrie, this item is really cool. We could put it in the front of the store, and instead of giving you 12, we'll give you 10. And give you less money, but it has better real estate. It's probably going to sell right away because it's cool and it's the front of the store. if it was really cool for me, I would say like, no, thank you. You could put it at the back of the store. It's still going to sell. People are going to look through the whole store and they're going to find this, and I want my $12. I don't want 10. Not for this. This is something that people already want. I don't want to give you two extra dollars. Well, the recommended is for lazy people. Don't use the recommended. Got to think about it, right? Is it worth getting $2 less when you're at the front of the store? If you have an average item, please pay the extra money so you're at the front of the store. You need those people. They're not walking back to the back of the store for cold water cream. Not to the back of the store. Maybe at the front of the store, they think it's cute and they buy it. But they're not walking all the way to the back of the store. Chico's needs to be at the front of the store. It's good, but it's not worthy of me walking all the way to the back of the store. Chick-fil-A could be at the back of the food court and do okay. You're not Chick-fil-A, though. Your stuff is not Chick-fil-A. You know what I think is weird is Chick-fil-A, I feel like it's such a religious experience for so many people. How come there's not ones like in all the ones here, like in the most premium real estate? I feel like they don't even need that. Why does it have to be there? People would drive for Chick-fil-A an extra 10 minutes. No problem. I don't get it. Maybe that's their model, but like, I just feel like when you have really, really good product, all you have to do is just not screw it up. Did I tell you guys about the pimento cheese? What is that? Is that a thing? Pimento cheese? Yeah. So Chick-fil-A released a new sandwich, pimento cheese, right? And they got rid of it. But you know what happened? When I said that on a podcast, a few people said, that sounds good, but I would get it without the cheese. And I'm like, bro, that's the same as the regular Chick-fil-A sandwich. That's the same thing. What do you mean without the cheese? That's the only different part of it. And they did, I think they did drop it, but man, it's like talk about staying in your lane. Vincent?
Okay. I had a question. Do you think offering free returns would be like a 2x thing or a 10x thing?
I think it depends on the product and the category. I think for shoes,
For my category,
for shoes, at least 2x.
at least 2x.
Yeah, because the problem, especially with your shoes that are so cool, that I kind of don't want to pay $100 to $200 for something that doesn't fit. But I understand I think if you didn't, because your items are so good, I think you could get away with no returns and also get away with buyer pays returns. But I'm just trying to think here of the cost benefit. If I were to go,
Can I add something while you're thinking?
Yeah.
So I had did the numbers, and
Yeah.
I found out like my current level of returns that I had like for last month. If I would have offered free returns, I would have had an extra $100 in my pocket from the final value fee discount.
Yeah.
eBay would have paid for all those returns and gave me an extra $100 if I was offering free returns.
Or that is true. For me, I had the same experience. Offering free returns paid for the discount and final value fees, paid for the additional returns, even the fraudulent returns. But my question is, if you have free returns, could you charge a little more on top of that? That's what I was thinking about earlier. Like because you're selling a premium shoe. So can you go, this fireman's boot is $180 from a normal seller, but because I have free returns and pictures that are taken outside with amazing lighting, $225 for mine. This is because your stuff is rare.
Yeah, true.
And I actually like that. Like Santoni when I was in sales, I wore Santoni because I liked it. And when Santonis were more expensive, I wanted them more. I don't know. Like just at the store, I would be like, why is this one more? And they're like, oh, the leather is different. It looks whatever. And I'll be like, okay, well, I think that's worth it, because if I'm with a customer and they're like, wow, this guy's shoes are a little bit different, maybe they buy from me or maybe they don't care. I don't know. Go ahead, Vince.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think I have like 3 pairs of Santonis that I need to list right now. I just, this week was the Rose Bowl. A lot of Japanese people come for that too in SoCal. Yep. And I always get swamped with inventory after that extra like big day of buying. So I have a lot of stuff to list right now. And I like kind of messed up from having too much fun on the Super Bowl and all that. So kind of lost a few days of work.
You said you back a couple days?
Yeah, like for sure 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very expensive mistake.
My workers did the 24-hour stream on Super Bowl Sunday, and I was like, can you guys not go home right after? Can I pay for a car service? Because it's kind of scary out there. There's like a lot of DUIs on that time. People get hammered. I don't know, or they just stay up later or whatever. But Taylor Swift is too strong, guys. Her influence. She called it in. Becky's grateful she doesn't drink anymore. I think it's just age. Once I hit a certain age, it just doesn't feel good anymore. It's not like it. I thought it was so fun in my 20s. Now, though, it hits different. Hits different. So KF earlier was saying to make a goal and check in with it weekly. So we're going to do that on Thursdays with Cheryl with the numbers. But there's a couple things that I want to do. So one is Carrie has like specific goals that she wants, and they may not be where she's at, right? So eventually you want to have your goals be like I'm going to call it minimum reseller standard. What is the minimum reseller standard that you would be satisfied at? I guess I can ask you guys that before we turn it over to Carrie. What is the minimum number of items you could sell each week that you'd be happy with? Because I think once you hit that, you can sell more, but you're still happy because you're at least at your minimum. How many items per week? Minimum reseller standard. Your MRS. What is the minimum number of items you would sell each week that you'd be happy? For me, 1,000 items a week. I'm happy as a clam. I don't have to do more. I'm doing more, but I don't have to do more. It's just for fun. So Kimmery is saying 15 a week. Judith is saying 75 a week. So that means what you want to do is build a machine that can easily do that. So if Judith built a machine that could do 200 a week, but she only wants 75 a week, it's going to be easy. So I want people to build a machine that makes their minimum standard easy. So for me, the garbage can, the minimum standard is it can't go over the rim. I take it out when it's half full. Easy. I want everything to be like this for people. Whatever your goal is, it can't be hard because you won't be consistent. Yeah, on Thursdays, let's report. We want to know what your minimum standard is and where you are at. Where you're at and then where you want to go. Is he back? Yeah. You want to show them how you sneeze? Say, chew. Chew.
Are you fake sneezing, Henry?
That's his like.
My goodness, skill. Chris, that baby is so like, cute.
Let it keep that fluffy hair forever. Because it's amazing. Hi, Henry.
Let's see. You want to do the achoo? I'll show you. Say achoo. Achoo.
He thinks you're funny.
That's his main skill. Say hi.
That's his main skill.
He's very different than your daughter. He's so different than your daughter. You can tell just by his personality. He's more like you or something. He's like more like you, and your daughter's a little bit like the opposite of you in a way.
That's exactly what I would expect.
Happy. Go ahead.
That's exactly what I would expect a baby Chris to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like really smiley. He's like very different than his sister's very serious. I don't know what happened to this one.
He's the second child.
He's a second child.
Mm-hmm. He does look like his mom. I think he looks like your wife, and Natalie looks just like you.
Yeah, I think so. Man, this guy. He's really like he doesn't talk as much as his sister, but everybody says that's a normal thing.
Second kid thing too.
Second kid thing. Say hi.
Hi, Henry.
Say hi. Yeah, he doesn't really talk that much. But
He seems like he understands, though.
you understand?
I bet he does.
Yeah, maybe he does understand. They're very different. And I think that's what's so cool about like all the things we do, because like you can have two kids, same parents, totally different, two resellers, even husband and wife resellers, when they have separate stores, they're totally different. All right, I'm gonna take off.